The Changeling's Price. It was a night drenched in rain when Lily and her husband Mark arrived at the old Cooper farmhouse. The sprawling estate had been in Lily's family for generations, sitting on the edge of the woods, forgotten by time. But it wasn't family nostalgia that brought them back. It was desperation. Their infant son, Jack, had fallen ill weeks ago with a sickness no doctor could explain. Lily had run out of options, except for one. Her grandmother had whispered tales of a changeling, a creature that could take the place of a human child and leave something unnatural behind. But those were just stories, right? Dark superstitions whispered to keep children in line. Still, as Jack's health deteriorated, Lily remembered one thing her grandmother had told her in a hushed voice. If your child ever changes, bring him back to the farmhouse. There, the truth will reveal itself. Now, as they pulled up to the abandoned house, its windows dark like empty eyes, Lily felt the weight of those words. The air around them seemed unnaturally still, save for the sound of rain pelting the roof and the distant rustle of the trees. She clutched Jack tighter, his tiny body barely stirring. Mark hesitated. "Are you sure about this? It's just an old house. This won't help him." But Lily was beyond reason. "We have to try. We owe it to Jack." They stepped inside, the smell of damp wood and age overwhelming. The house creaked under their weight as they ventured deeper, toward the old nursery upstairs, the room where generations of her family's children had once slept. The walls were lined with faded floral wallpaper, and an old wooden crib still stood in the corner, covered in dust. Lily placed Jack in the crib, tears welling in her eyes. "What now?" Mark asked, his voice tight with fear. Before Lily could answer, a whisper floated through the room. It was faint, almost imperceptible, like the wind slipping through the cracks in the walls. But it wasn't the wind, it was something else. The hairs on the back of Lily's neck stood up as she heard it again. A voice. "Leave him." Lily froze. She looked at Mark, but he shook his head. "I didn't say anything." The whisper came again, louder this time. "Leave him. The exchange must be made." Lily's heart pounded in her chest. What exchange? Suddenly the floorboards beneath them groaned, and a loud crash echoed from downstairs. Mark rushed to the doorway, looking down the staircase, his flashlight bouncing wildly across the darkened hall. "Something's moving down there," he whispered. The sound of footsteps followed, slow, deliberate, and heavy. The kind that didn't belong to a person. Mark backed away, fear twisting his face. Lily grabbed his arm. "We can't leave Jack here." But the whisper came again, now more insistent, surrounding them. "You must leave, before it's too late." The lights flickered, and in the dim glow, Lily caught a glimpse of something. A shadow, tall and twisted, moving just outside the room. It moved unnaturally, its limbs bending in ways that no human body should. And then, from the shadows, a figure emerged. It was Jack, or rather, it looked like Jack. The infant form, pale and delicate, but with eyes that burned with something dark and ancient. He smiled, a smile no baby should have. "This isn't real," Mark stammered, backing up. "This isn't happening." But Lily knew what she was seeing. The stories were true. This was no longer their son. It was a changeling. The creature, still in Jack's form, giggled, a high-pitched, unnatural sound that sent chills down Lily's spine. It crawled out of the crib, its tiny hands gripping the sides as it clambered down with disturbing agility. Lily stumbled backward, horrified as the creature's skin rippled, flickering between the form of her child and something monstrous, something with too many eyes and jagged, bone-like limbs. "We have to leave!" Mark shouted, grabbing Lily by the arm, but before they could move, the door slammed shut with a deafening bang. The creature crawled closer, its smile widening. "He's mine now," it hissed in a voice that didn't belong to Jack, deep and guttural, like a growl from the depths of the earth. Suddenly the crib began to shake violently, and with it, the entire room. The walls cracked, the floorboards buckled, and the windows shattered as the storm outside raged. The creature lunged toward Lily, but she darted out of the way just in time, her mind racing. She remembered the tales, the stories her grandmother told. The changeling could be vanquished, but only through sacrifice. A trade must be made. Tears streamed down Lily's face as she realized what had to be done. "Mark, listen to me," she gasped, clutching his arm. "The only way to stop this is through an exchange. A life for a life." "What are you talking about?" Mark cried, panic overtaking him. "The house demands it," Lily whispered, her voice cracking. "One of us has to stay, to let Jack go." Mark's face turned pale. No, we can't." But before they could argue further, the changeling lashed out, its arms extending like twisted vines, grabbing hold of Lily's legs and pulling her toward the crib. She screamed, clawing at the floorboards as the creature's grip tightened. "Go!" she yelled at Mark. "Take Jack and run!" Mark hesitated, but Lily screamed again, and this time, he listened. He reached into the crib, pulling out the limp form of the real Jack, who was still alive. Barely breathing, but alive. He looked back at Lily, his face torn with anguish. "I love you," she whispered through gritted teeth as the changeling dragged her closer. With a final, heart-wrenching look, Mark turned and ran, clutching Jack tightly to his chest as he bolted out of the room, down the stairs, and into the storm. The changeling, realizing its prey was slipping away, released Lily and let out a blood-curdling shriek that shook the walls of the house. It twisted and contorted, shifting into a grotesque, elongated form as it rushed after Mark. But Lily wasn't finished yet. Summoning every ounce of strength, she grabbed an old iron fire poker from the corner of the room, the only weapon she had, and slammed it into the changeling's path. The creature hissed in fury as the iron burned its flesh, sending up wisps of smoke. Lily stood her ground, even as the creature's eyes locked onto hers, filled with hatred. "Take me," she growled. "I'll be your sacrifice." The changeling paused, its deformed body trembling with rage. Then, slowly, it reached out, its cold, bony fingers curling around Lily's arm. The deal had been struck. As the changeling pulled her into the darkness, Lily felt a strange sense of peace. Jack would live. Mark would be free. The house had taken its price. In the distance, she heard Mark's footsteps fading away, and a small smile touched her lips. She had saved her son. That was all that mattered. The last thing she saw before the darkness swallowed her whole was the changeling's monstrous face, twisted into a grotesque grin. And then, there was silence. Weeks later, Mark returned to the house, holding Jack tightly as they stood at the edge of the property. The house was quiet, still, as if it had gone to sleep. The curse was broken. But deep inside, where the shadows still lingered, there was a whisper. A soft, familiar voice. "I'm still here." Lily was gone, but the changeling wasn't done with them yet. The cost of breaking a curse is never as simple as it seems.